I've spent the last 9 months or so traveling around the globe, meeting incredible women. I've had the chance to explore their beautiful... Okay, obviously I haven't. In fact, I've spent most of the year here. Like, here. Like, literally in this chair, at this desk. Yeah, like the whole year. Okay, look, if we're going to spend this panel talking about shadows, we have to mention what is perhaps one of the biggest shadows of this year. Of course, the coronavirus pandemic. You see, I intended on spending most of the last year in Panama, living and learning from a mountain community there. The hope was to eventually create another Sister Cities partnership for Gunnison. But of course, the virus hit, and as time went on, that dream became less and less feasible. So, like a lot of us, I had to pivot. Initially, I struggled to decide what the best course of action would be, but I knew a few fundamental things that I really wanted out of a project. The first was that I really wanted to work with mountain communities and help them overcome the adverse consequences that climate change has on their unique ecosystems. The second was that I really wanted to collaborate globally. Since the isolation of the pandemic, it was something I seriously missed, and I realized it was a pretty major privilege that I'd had throughout my time at Western. So, with the help of Dr. Jess Young, who is my advisor, and let's be honest, she's basically my life guide. Thanks, Jess. I decided that I would overcome my inability to travel by connecting with individuals across the globe virtually. Specifically, I would contribute to the United Nations Mountain Partnership regional efforts. For those of you who aren't familiar, the United Nations Mountain Partnership is an awesome international organization that is striving to accomplish mountain resiliency in mountain communities around the world. They use tons of impressive initiatives and strategies. One of those strategies is regional collaboration. So basically, they've divided the world into 6 regions. Ours is North America, Central America, and the Caribbean. And the goal is for international collaboration to be more streamlined within these regions, ensuring that individuals and communities can learn from each other so that no one is reinventing the wheel when it comes to resiliency. But obviously, these regions are huge. Across the thousands and thousands of miles of land are millions and millions of people. These people speak different languages, come from diverse cultures, and live extremely different lives. Now, on one hand, that's awesome because it means that our collective knowledge across our region is really impressive. And on the other hand, it means that collaboration can be a little tricky, whether that be from language barriers, cultural differences, or just insufficient technology. So I racked my brain, curious about how I could connect the mountain communities across our vast region in an attainable way. Something that I could do and something that I could do in a year. I ended up falling back on one of the most fundamental tools that we have at our disposal for sharing knowledge and connecting people: story. Story is so universal and so human. It's something that we all have in common. So I decided that I would use this incredible tool of storytelling to share at least some of the vast knowledge that we have in mountain communities across our region. I decided one of the best ways to make these stories accessible was to disseminate them through podcast. Podcasts are also a great way to share stories because there's something extra powerful about the intimacy and immersiveness of voice. So there it was, my project. I would use storytelling and podcasts to share knowledge and hopefully connect mountain people within our region. Through storytelling and podcasts, I could bring new voices into the climate conversation, and specifically into the conversation of the effects that climate change has on mountains. You see, there are voices that are often overshadowed by scientists and politicians, and it seemed seriously overdue for their voices to reach the global stage. I'm talking about the life stories and knowledge held by the mountain women across our region. So I've actually spent the last 9 months interviewing mountain women from across our United Nations Mountain Partnership region. I've had the opportunity to meet with women in northwestern Alaska, in the mountains of Panama, the coasts of Puerto Rico, and the jungles of Costa Rica. And then, of course, right here in Gunnison as well. The women I interviewed all have deep connections to the land. They're all deeply passionate about their communities, and they lead lives looking towards the future. They have valuable insights on many aspects of life, from managing stress to combating soil erosion. And for me, as a young person who's going through a lot of transitions right now and is doing so in a pretty uncertain world, it felt a little bit like the stars had aligned for me to be able to do this project. I learned so much, and not just about how to make a podcast, how to interview people over Zoom internationally. Not only those things, but I learned a lot about life, and I cannot wait to share these insights with you. Now, of course, we don't have time to listen to my entire podcast, but I did want to share a few insights from these incredible women. So, without further ado, here's a little bit from my podcast, Mountain Women of the World.
My name is Katy Castillo.
Avanga atara Catalina, Kekitarmi Nuranga.
I'm MJ Pickett.
Mi nombre es Hermida Porras González.
I'm Astrid Martinez.
And I'm Gillian Steininger. And these are the voices of mountain women. Women with knowledge and stories to share. Story is powerful. It teleports us to new worlds.
Everything on the beach became a tool for imagination.
Reminds us of lost versions of ourselves.
I was so beyond proud of myself. Like, I actually can do this.
Awakens new perspectives.
We would start seeing things differently. And that is the beginning of change.
And unites us through shared experiences.
You're not alone. Somebody out there have gone through the same thing.
Each of us have meaningful stories to share. We have a lot to offer and a lot to learn from each other. In this era of polarity and of uncertainty, let us be inspired by our own stories, each other's stories, and hopefully these stories, the ones that belong to mountain women of the world. These women have all agreed to share their stories in hopes of empowerment, solidarity, unity. My hope is to bring attention to these incredible women and their powerful voices, so that, if nothing else, they are heard. I'm Gillian Steininger, and you're listening to Mountain Women of the World. Mountain Women of the World. But of course, before I say goodbye, I have to say thank you to the many people who made this project possible. First and foremost, I have to thank the incredible women that trusted me with their stories. MJ, Kati, Jackie, Astrid, Ermida, and of course Fern, thank you. Dr. Jess Young, who served not only as my mentor, but as a bridge builder and a friend. Arjun Gupta for funding this work and making it possible for me to pursue my passions. My community sponsor, Alberto Pascual, for generously offering me his time and support in busy times. A big thank you to Dr. John Hausdorfer for continuously opening doors that I never thought could be opened. Anna Coburn for her listening ears and unique ability to help me feel sane. The entire Master of Environmental Management program for their extensive network that has allowed me to learn from international, national, and local perspectives. And of course, my incredibly supportive family, including all of my loving siblings, especially my brother Spencer, for creating and recording the music in the podcast, and my sister Laura for her incredible cover art. My parents for their relentless love and support. To Kate for reminding me, even in my darkest times, that I am capable. And of course, to my fiance Lucas for being my sturdy foundation. And of course, I thank you all for taking the time to listen. I hope that you've enjoyed my presentation, and I know that you will enjoy the rest of the panel.